finally here! The Slender Man movie is here for everyone to enjoy! Right? Let's just get into this. Complete spoilers are inbound, so if you truly do care about them for this movie, then just don't watch it, please. A movie ticket is expensive. Don't watch it. It's not worth your time or money, but let's start from the beginning. Let's go through this thing. I'm gonna skip some plot points that aren't important, so whatever. Just doesn't matter. I went and saw this movie in the cinema opening night. Honestly, I was actually sort of hyped when sitting down, ready to give the film a fair shot and hopefully be pleasantly surprised. I really wanted this movie to be good. I would have been delighted to come here and sing this movie's praises. Maybe the critics were, too harsh on this film. Maybe I would actually enjoy it. Maybe it would try something different. I hoped for something good. I was hoping for the best. However, we were off to a really rocky start with the most stereotypical high school setting possible gracing our very eyes in the beginning of the film. We found ourselves following 4 totally hip young girls as they make their way through their usual school business talking about boys and gossip. The girls are named Hallie, Ren, Chloe, and Katie, played by actresses Julia Goldani-Tellez, Joey King, Jazz Sinclair, and Annalise Basso respectively, and I'm sorry if I butchered your names there. I feel really bad for these actresses. The acting for the most part is passable, with a few exceptions in certain scenes, and I do not blame the actors for this. I know these actresses have done well in other films. Joey King you probably know from The Conjuring and the modern cinematic masterpiece known as Wish Upon, and you may have seen Annalise Basso in films like Oculus and Ouija Origin of Evil. If you've seen these films, you probably know both actresses were quite competent in them, despite their young age. All 4 of these women deserve to play actual characters, but here they have so little to work with such a weak, unfocused, and shoddy script. I truly do hope they do well after this shit. I do. Of course, we can't forget the stereotypical jock love interest for Hallie, who we meet in this scene, but we can't forget Chloe's love interest, who we never see after this. The cool guy gang of the school let the girls know that they'll be trying to summon the mysterious Slender Man later that night, which motivates the girls to try and do the same. So let's talk about the fact that this film is set specifically where it is for a moment. In a way, I do understand setting the film in a high school. You gotta make the characters relatable for the primary demographic that will watch this movie, right? However, god damn it if it isn't the most run-of-the-mill framework imaginable. I wish the setting was more interesting. How about making a parent the main character, having to deal with and come to terms with their missing child and finding out more and more about Slender Man the further they go? I don't know, maybe that sounds a little bit too similar to Stranger Things, but hey, at least that's more intriguing, and judging by how much this movie rips off The Ring and other horror movies, yeah. Later that night, after our main character Hallie has dinner with her parents and younger sister Lizzie, who pleads to come along but is rejected from doing so, the girls meet up for a totally dope hangout. Let's get drunk! Then it's time to try and summon Slender Man by, going online and looking up a spooky video file. Slender Man can apparently be transmitted through a spooky video file now, so it's basically The Ring but with laptops for the YouTube generation, and now you can summon Slender Man for yourself, which is so dumb. Why can't he just show up and terrorize people in unexplained ways? Why would you have to summon him? The video itself just shows random shots of a forest along with some flashing lights and what looks like some Illuminati triangle eye thing for whatever reason. Anyone who suffers from epileptic seizures should look away during this scene. The girls are spooked but shrug the video off. I wonder what will happen next. We have ourselves a little weird dream sequence with some interesting visuals, but for whatever reason, the movie just yanks us out of these atmospheric sequences really quickly before we can even fully digest them, which is really annoying and not a good way of doing it. A few days later on a field trip, Katie goes missing. Oh no? Really, we have very little reason to give any shits about any of our main characters so far, and it will not get better the further we go, spoiler alert. They don't even feel like characters, they feel like empty vessels just to go through this spookfest with us. We as audience members have nothing to gravitate towards or go with, and we never ever get a feel for the characters themselves. They're so hollow. Hallie likes exercising and Ren is an edgy punk rocker or something, and that's about as close as we're gonna get to characterization. The two remaining girls I cannot for the life of me say anything unique about. I don't remember anything about them other than that Chloe's dad died when she was young, which also goes nowhere. A while later, the girls decide to sneak into Katie's house and snatch her laptop so they can research information about our favorite mythological creature to try and get their friend back. Obviously, they stumble across a bunch of different video files Katie has downloaded showcasing various sightings of the tall man throughout the years. One of them which made one guy in the audience go, "Oh, hell no," which made me laugh. They also encounter a mysterious person who Katie used to chat with, who seems to be quite knowledgeable in the subject of Slender Man. I wonder if this will come up later. They look through some of the chat conversations until they come across a video Katie made herself, where she went out into the woods trying to find Slendy before being attacked by him. What I find funny about this scene is that as soon as we reach Katie's video, it all looks super professional and high quality, and it doesn't even look as though the actress is holding the phone she's filming with. It looks like she's got a selfie stick or something. As the girls watch the laptop, a long shadow appears behind them, and then they cut to the next scene. They do nothing with that shadow. What the fuck? Later that night, Ren starts chatting with the mysterious user a little more on her own, who seems to be quite knowledgeable in how to deal with Slendy. And the next day at school, she pitches an idea she learned from the user of where one can summon Slender Man by unveiling themselves to him. Later that night, the girls head out into the woods ready to sacrifice objects of sentimental value to the creature in hopes of getting his attention. This is one of the most frustrating sequences in the entire movie, because Ren, who brought blindfolds for the girls so they don't look at Slendy, instructs her friends very carefully that if they observe his face, they will become infected by him. They put on the blindfolds, she tells them this, and literally a second later, Chloe fucking takes her blindfold off to sneak a peek, and the entire audience in the cinema groaned. Tough luck, lady, you're toast. Of course, Slender Man appears and stalks her, and the chase scene that follows is so dark and filled with so much shaky cam that you can barely tell what is happening. It doesn't make it scary, it's just confusing to follow. After a stupid fake-out jump scare where the girls bump into one another, Chloe is possessed by Slendy. A little later, she is visited by him in her home where he snatches her up. The scene is set up in such a ridiculous manner too. As Chloe is going to bed, the girl's phone rings as someone wants to video call her. She answers it, and the caller is of course standing outside her house before slowly making its way inside by phasing through walls and shit. I guess Slendy FaceTimes people now? Bye bye Chloe, have fun being dead! We catch up with Ren, who is in the library looking up more information about the mythical being stalking them, which is a bit of a fun part for people who know a lot about Slender Man from the internet, before she starts feeling like she's being watched. Of course, we have to suffer through another stupid jump scare as a librarian walks past her, but after that, the lights go out. I think this is my favorite scene in the movie because of the really weird, trippy visuals, obviously showcasing that Slendy is messing with reality and toying with a young girl, and I think there are some effective uses of the location as well. Though for some reason, he decides to mess with her by, turning her face smooth and empty? Does he do these things now? Why? Just to mess with her? Anyways, Ren snaps out of it and informs Hallie of her findings in the library the following day, but neglects to mention that Slender Man appeared and fucked with her head for no reason. There's some drama between the two as Hallie seems to want to prioritize her exercises, but this shit goes nowhere, and the two then decide to head on over to Chloe's house to see if she's okay. Spoilers, she's not. Remember how I said that certain scenes in this movie end abruptly for no reason? Here's a prime example. The two remaining girls go to check up on Chloe at her house, who hasn't been responding to their texts. Something is obviously up. They bang on her door and windows and nothing happens. Then, she shows up looking terrible with dark rings around her eyes, so she's obviously possessed. And Hallie and Ren look at her bewildered, and then they just walk away. Why? Why do they leave their friend who is looking like a fucking reanimated corpse all to herself? Why do they not go inside and check up on her? This movie is filled with such baffling editing choices. We get another drama scene where Hallie wants nothing more than to just move on from all this Slender Man business and go on a date with her jock love interest. I bet you forgot about him. Despite the fact that two of her friends are missing, you know? Ren, of course, is pissed at this. However, once again, she neglects to tell Hallie that she literally saw him and was attacked and tormented by the creature just last night, which is extremely frustrating to watch. Why would Ren not tell her friend about that? God, I hate artificial drama. Okay, so next up is the best part of the entire film for all the wrong reasons. Are you ready? Hallie shows up for her date with the jock boyfriend at his house, and he puts on some sensual music for them to get in the mood. They start making out, making everyone in the audience very uncomfortable, before the record player starts messing up, and then jock boyfriend starts to spaz the fuck out, and his face just morphs into I don't even know, his eyes get all messed up and his tongue sticks out or whatever, and it looks like the funniest fucking thing ever. The entire audience burst into laughter. It was so bad. The best part? None of this shit is ever mentioned again. Hallie is freaked out for a second, then everything goes back to normal and they act like nothing happened. She doesn't tell him anything or anything, she does nothing! She tells him she has to go, they kiss, and she urges him not to go and watch the spooky Slender Man video she and her friends watched at the beginning of the film. She is super adamant about him not watching it, and he promises not to. The next day in class, he shows up with dark marks on his arm showing that he watched it. Nice. Interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure this is the scene we saw in the first trailer for the movie, the one where Chloe hilariously stabs herself in the eye, but in the actual film, she's nowhere to be found here. She's not in this scene. In fact, this entire sequence, this character, none of it is in the final film. The last time we see her is when she's looking like a zombie, so what the hell happened to her? They just completely forgot about her. Did they delete her death scene or something? That seems like something very important that you probably don't want to leave out of the movie. This is also the last time we see Jock Boyfriend in the entire movie too, so what happened to him? Where does he go? Why did he watch the video? We will never know. Later on that day, Hallie experiences two pointless dream sequences showcasing nothing but freaky imagery to try and spook the audience, but the CGI is so cheesy that it mostly falls flat. Now there are some genuinely freaky parts in the first dream sequence, but since it is just a dream, it serves no purpose to the plot whatsoever. The second dream is even fucking weirder. Hallie goes to the mirror and starts gagging before lifting up her shirt, revealing that she looks pregnant? What's the meaning of that? Is she afraid of getting out of shape or something? Anyways, what look like moving branches or tentacles start popping out of her stomach and comically breaks the window with really shit CGI trying to do the job, but it's just so bad, it's terrible. When Hallie finally wakes up for real, Lizzie, remember her, Hallie's younger sister, is suffering from what seems to be a panic attack and is therefore sent to the hospital. No doubt she is being haunted by Slender Man as well now. Slender Man starts bending reality in the hospital as well to hilarious degrees. Hallie walks through the hospital as these things are happening, passes a few rooms and sees some vaguely creepy imagery, but nothing even remotely scary to ensure that PG-13 rating. And there's one sequence in particular where a random woman's face just morphs into a stupid demon face and makes a loud noise, because why not? Hallie doesn't even react to these things, she just looks confused all the way through. Anyways, as Hallie finally reaches her sister's room again and hallucinates some more before finally snapping back to reality before anything scary or even interesting can happen once more, Lizzie starts spazzing out once more, screaming, "He had no face!" which connects the dots for Hallie, and so she runs back home and checks Lizzie's computer. Of course, the girl has ventured to the exact same site Hallie, Katie, and boyfriend did, and also conveniently left open a video where she recorded herself going into the woods to try and summon Slendy, once again looking super professional. But in a shocking turn of events, we find out Ren was there with her, instructing her on what to do. Hallie furiously runs over to Ren's house, where she finds her friend's room is full of drawings of Slendy, and a computer which conveniently still has all the relevant information Hallie needs open for her to view, such as a collection of numerous missing posters and some news reports about a girl who ventured into the woods and returned looking like a dead person, and who ended up in a mental asylum but I guess has now gone missing or something. Apparently, this girl was the anonymous user that taught Katie and everyone how Slender Man works, I think. The information goes by so fast that you have a hard time keeping up. Anyhow, Ren coerced Lizzie into summoning Slendy. Oh no! I guess Ren is the big Slendy expert, but how come people know so much about him? How have people learned of him really, and how do they know what makes him tick? Hallie then finds Ren ready to jump out of her window. She didn't notice her in the same room just mere seconds ago, and Ren tells Hallie that they have to sacrifice themselves to save Lizzie. But exactly how would that make the sister safe? Couldn't Slendy just come back for Lizzie later? Ren then bites the dust by being pulled out of the house by branch tentacles, and the movie fucking flashbacks to what she said like 2 minutes ago to Hallie, like the movie thinks we're fucking stupid or something, reiterating that the girls must die to keep Lizzie safe. Thank you, we know. Hallie finally runs out into the woods to confront Slendy, and this is where we see him in all his glory as he reveals himself to Hallie, and he looks so fucking bad. He looks like a shitty, stupid, big, cheap CGI spider thing that chases her down, and once he finally catches up to her, he grabs hold of her, pushes her up against a tree, and uses his branch tentacles to completely cover Hallie in them, thus turning her into a tree? Wait, he turns people into trees? Is that what feeds him? Is that his motivation? How boring. The movie gives no further answers to that either, so we'll never know what he's doing here. Anyhow, after that, it appears as though Lizzie's curse has been lifted, and the movie closes off with a super deep and epic monologue by her in the end. No, not really. She basically goes on a spiel about how Slender Man spreads like a virus to people who seek him out and blah blah blah. It's so obvious that they're trying to be really profound, but it just doesn't work. Her monologue literally finishes off with the words, "It's all spreading his word. You know?" That's literally what she says. Yeah, no. And that's how the movie ends. As it did, everyone in the audience sighed and bolted out of their seats as fast as possible. It is a super abrupt letdown of an ending which fails to answer any questions and leaves many plot threads unresolved, like, what happened to Boyfriend? What happened to Chloe? What purpose did Hallie's obsession with exercising have to do with the plot? Who was that one girl on the computer who Ren was researching about? She was the one we saw in the trailers, right? Where was she in the rest of the movie? How was Lizzie affected by all of this? How did the families deal with this? How did the school and town react? That's what I want to see, but we get nothing and then the credits roll. What the hell even was that? Did they just give up attempting to resolve anything and just ended it just cause? If that's not a terrible creepypasta ending, then I don't know what it is. So, was there anything that I liked about this movie? Well, let's see here. Well, the camera work for the most part was absolutely fine. There were some interesting angles that I felt worked, and some effective uses of framing in certain shots. A lot of times I found myself scanning the frame to see if Slendy was standing in the background or not, but unfortunately the movie was color graded and saturated so dimly that I could barely make out anything most of the time. Watching this movie at home would be an absolute nightmare unless you have a completely, and I mean completely pitch black dark room. Some scenes did look briefly interesting, with some really mind-bending visuals that left you confused about what's happening, and they were in my opinion the best part of an otherwise dull affair, but they're usually over very quickly so they have no time to sink in. Like I mentioned, the acting bar a few key scenes is okay. It's passable, but nothing noteworthy whatsoever. Then again, what do any of the actors realistically have to work with? Otherwise, certain parts of the movie had fairly effective sound design that I felt contributed well to the admittedly very thin atmosphere, though these few instances were very far and few between. That is pretty much all I can say that I liked about the film. Everything else? Utter fucking crap. What a letdown. I won't say I'm surprised, I'm just heavily disappointed. I wanted this movie to be good, man. I really did, and it just makes me sad. This is the movie that will bring creepypasta into the mainstream? This was the best we got? It's a shame they squandered whatever potential they may have had at one point. It would have been great to spend more time with how the families were dealing with their missing children, and how the town viewed the entire thing. We only get very limited glimpses of this with Katie's father in the beginning of the film, who is very sad and angry, but it does very little to add any emotional weight or investment in what's happening at all. The movie just feels like it doesn't have time to deal with all that boring stuff, so instead we get a bunch of scenes of characters dicking around in forests or having long drawn-out dream sequences. Did I mention that the film is only a little over 90 minutes long? Because it certainly doesn't feel that way. Most of it is just really fucking boring, and I struggled to remain interested for the majority of the runtime. I was either baffled, bewildered, confused, or just bored. And I was never scared, ever. Marble Hornets made on a shoestring budget was scarier than this. What's even funnier is that the trailer for The Nun, which showed before this movie even started, scared the audience more than anything in the movie we actually were there to see did. Honestly, the whole thing just feels so tired. Here we are, running through the typical teen horror movie tropes, doing nothing at all to differentiate it from any other mediocre blockbuster. Slender Man could have easily been replaced by any other monster and it would have made no difference. It took no advantage over the fact that they had him to play around with. The entire film is just so very by the numbers and usual and so played out. It did the most predictable thing possible with the least amount of effort, and it is such a shame. The puzzle pieces were there, and they had a shot at making something great, something interesting, something worth talking about. But it just fell flat on its face with an unfocused plot and nothing noteworthy to speak of. It's no wonder the studio that released it, Screen Gems, didn't bother showing the film to critics until a day before release. They probably knew this thing was doomed and desperately just wanted to get it out there to earn back a quick buck before word of mouth started spreading about how shit this thing really is, but hey, we'll see how that goes. Don't go see this movie, there are so many better films in cinemas right now. This one is not worth your time, even if you are a big Slender Man or creepypasta fan. It would not surprise me if there are a shit ton of deleted or altered scenes on here, and I have no doubts that the film was heavily cut up before release, judging by the fact that a whole bunch of stuff found in the first trailer for the film just isn't in the final product, like Chloe stabbing herself, this guy committing suicide, this girl riding whatever she was riding, and this scene of this girl walking out of the woods. None of these scenes are anywhere in the movie, and I can't help but imagine the studio panicked months before release and decided to radically throw something together quickly, probably cut out some side plots and just hope for the best. They didn't do a good job because they fucking forgot about one of the main characters. What? How did they do that? Evidently, they failed, and we as audience members suffered because of it. I highly suspect that there was a lot of behind-the-scenes fiddling with this thing. Frankly, I'm baffled. Did I mention that this movie had a budget of $28 million? Or 10 to 28 million? Wikipedia doesn't seem to want to decide, it keeps changing. I've seen films with $1 million budgets that are scarier, or even lower, more believable, all around better. I guess all the money went into the crap-looking CGI or something? Will this film make its money back? It's definitely hard to tell at this moment, judging by how decimated this film has been by critics and audiences alike. How did they mess it up so badly? I guess we'll have to wait and see if Sony wants to give the creepypasta cinematic universe a shot. To conclude, I cannot for the life of me recommend this movie. Bar a few hilariously terrible scenes, it's not even so bad it's good. It's just so mediocre, so dull, and so bland. Do not waste your time, do not waste your money. Unless you have a morbid curiosity, or if you are a die-hard, and I mean die-hard fan of Slendy. It pains me to say this, it really does, but Slender Man the movie is an absolute failure. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay awesome. Goodbye.